everybody, this is set 91 on page 622. We're going to look at evaluations with sign numbers and sign numbers without parentheses. This is taking a step farther what we have already learned as far as evaluating problems by plugging in the numbers that they give us. And the difference in doing this is that now we have negative numbers, sometimes positive, sometimes negative, and that makes a difference in how we work these because we have to keep in mind our negative and positive multiplication and division rules. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to put parentheses around where each of these goes. Because we're dealing with negative numbers, they give us this problem, they want us to put in negative numbers. We need to put in parentheses where each x and each y are so that we can not get confused with what we're doing. Okay, and again, if you hopefully recall, when you have two unknown variables next to each other, that means they are multiplied, which means you need to multiply them when you plug in your numbers, not just put them next to each other. All right, so let's put in the correct number, which is -2 in for the x's. So there's an x, so -2. There's an x, put in a -2. And for y, we have -3. -3, -3. Okay, now here's the first thing we're going to do. First thing I'm going to do is deal with the multiplication part because that is the most important. So let's forget about this minus right now, or this negative, you could call it either way. Just deal with the multiplication. -2 times -3. We have a negative times a negative. That makes the answer positive. So I'm going to go ahead and write positive. 2 times 3 is 6. Positive 6. Now bring everything else down. Okay, so now we need to deal with this, and we're going to have to be changing some signs here because we have positive negatives and we have negative and negatives. So here's how I like to do that. Section it off, put a little slash right after the parentheses before the next sign, and then -2 stays the same because nothing is being done to that. Don't need to worry about parentheses. Here we have a negative and a positive. Negative times positive means negative. If one is negative and the other is positive, your answer has to be negative. So this becomes a -6. And in this case, again, it's confusing. I say -6, but it becomes -6 as well. Same thing with this. This went from minus a negative, which means negative times negative. And if you have two negatives, your answer is going to be positive. So positive means plus. Okay, now here's what we need to do first. You can put together the numbers that have the same signs, -2 and -6. I know it has, you're like, well, this is minus. Minus and negatives function as the same, have the same purpose basically. So if you have -2, -6, think if you're on a number scale and you went down 2 and then you went down 6 more, you would now be at -8 because you've put those together and kept the sign. And now we just need to figure this out. So imagine on your number scale, you've gone down -8, but then you've gone back up 3. Where are you at? You should be at -5. If you need to draw a number line, go ahead and do that because that may help you keep things from getting mixed up. Okay, let's look at the next part of this lesson on 623. All right, on page 623, we are going to talk about sign numbers without parentheses, and you'll be having problems that basically are kind of like skipping that first step that we've been doing and taking you right into where we need to figure things out on how to put them together. So the first thing we're going to do in this example, this is example number 2 on page 623. This is the problem that we have, and it's always a good idea to section it off so you don't get parts confused. So I'm going to put a slash mark behind it right before numbers that are not going to be multiplied. We know this is multiplied together because there's parentheses. This is multiplied together. So our sections go like this. Okay, so now we can just bring it down, working out the multiplication part. And we can also work out the signed part as well, and I'll get to that in a minute. Nothing is being done with a -2. It just comes straight down. Here we have, even though this is +3, we're going to treat it as a positive. +3 times -2. Positive times a negative is a negative. And now 2 times 3 is 6. Leave it like that. Here we treat this as a -2 times +4. Negative times positive is a negative. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay? Then, since these are all negatives, we simply put them all together. So again, don't get confused with how you put them together. Just imagine a number line. If you started at -2, went down 6 more, and went down 8 more, how far down would you be? you would actually be at negative 16. And essentially what you're doing is adding these and keeping the negative sign. 2 and 6 would be 8. 8 and 8 would be 16, but they're all negatives, which means you have just moved farther and farther and farther down the number line. So your answer would be negative 6. If you have any questions, let me know.